When I first heard fashion was propping up the film industry, I was more than a bit skeptical. But after going down a rabbit hole with this topic and researching probably more than I needed to, I'm definitely less skeptical than I was at the start, and very surprised at how far fashion is going to integrate themselves with Hollywood. We need to talk about what that means for film, for the fashion industry, and especially for us as viewers, the ones having to pay higher ticket prices for movies that are starting to show more adverts during the movie than they do before. Let's get into it. Before we do, just a quick welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Katie. I talk about fashion and culture, often how it relates to sustainability and what's trending right now. If that sounds good to you, then make sure you're subscribed to the channel and let's get into it. So first, I think we need to discuss the relationship between fashion and film in the 2020s. Because obviously fashion is not new to Hollywood. From red carpet looks to costume designs to collections inspired by what's on our screens. But this is where the research comes in, because fashion has been building much deeper ties than the average person probably is aware of. And in the past few years especially, it's gotten really serious about integrating itself on the big screen. Film, likewise, has been getting much more serious about fashion. And we're going to talk about the benefits of this relationship for each party. But before we do, I want to talk about ways fashion and film are intertwining. And we're going to start with an obvious one. Method dressing, which is much more serious than a brand putting a celebrity in any old dress for the red carpet. So a lot of people think that method dressing started with the Barbie tour. And though this isn't accurate, and film stars have been using their roles as inspiration for what to wear for years, few people committed to the bit like Margot Robbie. She was wearing a Barbie-inspired wardrobe for almost an entire year, referencing archival looks from iconic dolls and working with her stylist Andrew McCall to really play up that source material. The internet is split about who does method dressing best, Margot and Andrew or Zendaya and Law Roach. It's true that Zendaya was doing it first. Back in 2017, her and Law Roach used her role in The Greatest Showman as inspiration for a couple of red carpet looks, and each of her promos since then have only gotten better and more elaborate. Spider-Man, Challenges, and June 1, which eventually led to the June 2 tour, which is maybe the pinnacle of method dressing. Definitely a showstopper in terms of referencing creativity and breaking the internet. I mean, it's not really a competition because both actresses have managed to blow away any previous understanding of what method dressing is and could be. But Barbie was maybe the first time we saw the audience joining in on the fun here, making what they wore to the movie just as big a deal as going itself. And maybe that's what got brands' attention the most. Certainly Hollywood took notice, and now method dressing is almost a requirement for promoting your movie. Jenna Ortega promoting Wednesday, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande doing the Wicked press tours, Margot Robbie's most recent project, the Wuthering Heights press tour, which some say has been propping up the movie, and also Timothée Chalamet's neon orange era for Marty Supreme. Notably, he's one of the only male actors embracing the method dressing approach. And the success is hard to argue with. Getting it right can mean countless headlines, internet memes and trends, coffee table books, art exhibitions, and maybe a reason for people to go see the movie if they weren't already planning to. In an interview with Law Roach, she said that method dressing is just as powerful as that of a trailer that's running on social media or in the theatre. It's the newest ideation of what it means to promote a movie. And Amy Odell, the journalist who said that Margot's press tour was the thing propping up the Wuthering Heights movie, argued that method dressing on the red carpet should be a bigger investment for Hollywood studios, and that this was more important in terms of marketing appeal than traditional methods like award show accolades. The red carpet is one thing, but dressing movie stars in the movies is the real business. That's why LVMH, one of fashion's biggest conglomerates, has a branch of their business entirely dedicated to getting their brands in movies. Likewise, Saint Laurent has a division entirely dedicated to cinema called Saint Laurent Productions. Dressing movie stars on screen and then making some of those clothes and accessories available to the masses is the business now. Subliminal marketing in movies is not new, but I don't think fashion has been paying as much attention previously as it is now. Barbie had an obscene amount of on and off screen collaborations. Truly the biggest example I can think of a movie capitalizing on people wanting to buy into the universe. And I think this proved to the industry just how viable this kind of marketing can be. And that's leading to a lot of on-screen sponcon, throwaway brand collabs, and issues with the current state of fashion ruining on-screen fantasy. But we're going to come back to that. I mentioned on-screen sponcon, and if you don't know what that means, then I'll give an example. I don't know if anyone else has seen that industry episode, but the characters bending over backwards to mention Net-a-Porter, I think 3 or 4 times within a 40-minute episode, has become a meme now between me and my fiance because it was just so blatant. Moving from on-screen developments to off-screen, we come to Hollywood and the front row. Seeing our favourite movie stars, the ones getting the most buzz right now, invited to Fashion Week is tried and tested. We've seen it for years. But fashion has started going one step further. Last year's Fashion Week saw the cast of The Devil Wears Prada sitting and filming front row during a live fashion show, lending not only realism to the film, but also a juicy experience for the fashion crowd gathered there, since Miranda Priestley was apparently sat across from Anna Wintour, her supposedly off-screen inspo. Fashion clearly loves this kind of tongue-in-cheek reference, since Zoolander did this first, and we know how they paint the modelling industry. Now I want to talk about the film club aspect. The brands that are not only helping to glamorize the film industry, but fund it. Maybe you're not aware, because I wasn't, but fashion has been funding film projects for decades, and it's only gotten more serious recently. Saint Laurent Productions put out Emilia Perez last year, and Ami Paris presented an award at the Cannes Film Festival. Both examples which shows a brand's credibility as an investor in the film industry rather than just a dresser of the movie stars. Brands and designers can also be used as a resource for film. Designers have been creating costumes for film for decades, and most recently we've seen collabs like Jonathan Anderson designing for Queer, but they've also experimented with film as a medium to show their normal collections. Gucci put out its own film called The Tiger to promote Demna's first collection, and that featured major film stars like Demi Moore, Elliot Page, and Keke Palmer, amongst others. I also want to mention something that's a little bit different, which is the branded film club. And I think it's the fashion film club in particular that's arguably getting more bums in seats in the cinema and furthering that aspirational element of film amongst the fashion crowd. The Miu Miu Film Club in particular, I think, is genius. Being known as the it girl brand and turning your customers into cinephiles is a certain type of romanticization that definitely seems to be working. And we're going to come back to why I think this works so well in a second. First, I think we need to talk about something we probably should have talked about earlier, which is why film needs fashion to prop it up. It's clearly true that film has been embracing fashion's efforts to get onto the big screen, and arriving at this moment has taken decades of the entertainment and media industry declining, and brands stepping in to fill that void. The media has told us so many times that the film industry is declining. Budget cuts, production volumes going up, declining ticket sales, streaming services, and the pandemic shutting down cinemas. The film industry has had some heavy hits recently. And though examples like Margotrobbie's and Zendaya's press tours prove that hype can be built around having the right style, studios have been cutting the budget for this sort of thing for years. According to celebrity stylist Kate Young, who has been working with movie stars since 2010, this decline means she's paid less for the work she does today than she was 15 years ago. And it's her interview with Vanity Fair that has come out with this line of fashion propping up the film industry. She explained, "Movie companies aren't making the money anymore. Neither are magazines. Even celebrities, to a certain degree, aren't making the kind of money making movies that they make from brand deals. Production companies are now relying on movie stars having brand deals to subsidize costs." So according to industry experts, those brand deals, those red carpet moments, are integral now to the budget of the film industry, at least marketing-wise. But it's not exactly clear how. Law Roach has proved that dressing your movie star in something that encapsulates the film and the culture and the je ne sais quoi of a movie really can translate into hype and getting people to go see it. But it's not as if you as a viewer are going to see Zendaya on the red carpet wearing a Terry Mugler 1995 to 1996 fembot suit and think, hey, I'm going to go out and buy that. So that kind of brings us on to the big question, which is what is in it for brands? How do they translate sponsoring movie stars to actual actual sales from us. This is always my favorite part of the video because we're getting into the psychology of something. And right now, we're going to talk about why fashion is embracing film, what fashion hopes we as the audience are going to experience and therefore take away from seeing these movie stars in their clothes. Maybe the better question is, what does the cinema offer us and why is it so important in today's world? The first thing is heightened emotions, and mostly positive emotions. You come to a movie looking for escapism, inspiration, romanticization, and desire. You come out feeling like an entire new person. The things you experience in a film are like the better version of real life. Main character energy, happy endings, highly cinematic and aesthetic visuals, draw of the culture surrounding film, the community, the history, the authority of what's happening in film and how that reflects our lives. You also have the personal gain of being educated in film. That whole vibe going around of being disgustingly educated fits well into the cultural aspect of movies. For brands, it's kind of clear that their gain stands in exploiting all of these things, linking the emotions and personal gain we get from cinema to their brand and profiting off the positive associations. I also want to mention a reason Vogue gave for the fashion industry getting into film. They think brands attaching themselves to film not only give them a legitimate way to reclaim their spot in the cultural zeitgeist, but it also gets them in front of viewers who might typically avoid more commercial means of advertising. The people not on Instagram because they see it as brain rot, but who are willing to sit in front of a 2.5-hour film because they see it as a useful part of their time. Now we've discussed how fashion is getting into film, I think we need to discuss the major problems that come up. Now, as a film lover, I can accept fashion getting into film if it means the film industry does not go under, if it means people can keep producing films, if it means we get more independent ones. And also, I know the film industry is far from perfect. So to say that the fashion industry, notoriously well known for a lot of bad things, is the corrupting one in the relationship isn't exactly fair. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not necessarily a problem fashion is getting into film, but we can't ignore the impact it might have on the enjoyment of cinema, especially for us as viewers. There's two issues that immediately come to mind for me. One, the hyper-consumerism of brand collabs and method dressing and subtle spon-con opportunities that turns us from viewers of cinema into consumers of fashion. The other obvious problem I can think of is the quality of fashion nowadays. And this is where I want to talk about costuming, because this affects not only us as viewers immersed in the realism of a film, but also it affects the film industry as an art form. To explain the problem, we're going to look at a couple of case studies. The first one being the F1 film with Brad Pitt. The outfits in this movie are good, not because of a particular brand Brad is wearing, not because of the budget of the movie, but because the looks made sense to the character. And the character has a very integral sense of style that is used to develop and flesh out his personality. Julian Day was in charge of costuming for this movie, and he quite easily drew from references like Steve McQueen and Paul Newman to put together outfits that made sense for Brad Pitt's character. And in interviews, Day said he used a blend of vintage and contemporary brands in order to achieve this. It's also super helpful that a lot of the movie takes place in driving gear, and the fashion of the paddock hasn't really changed. So all of those scenes probably won't feel dated even in 50 years. That can't be said for a lot of films being produced nowadays. And the role of encapsulating what a teenager looks like in a coming-of-age movie is so much harder than designing the wardrobe for a guy who's stuck in the good old days. The TikTok trend cycle has made films coming out dressing teenage girls immediately dated before they even hit the screen. The Mean Girls remake suffered from this problem, and a lot of people were talking about it online. Looks were outdated because they were based on TikTok trends that happened when the film was filming, which meant it was several trend cycles out of date by the time it came out. Not to mention there was a lot of people pointing out that the clothes looked like they were from Shein, kind of ruining that aspirational element of a movie. And that brings us on to the fast fashion issue and our third example, which is The Devil Wears Prada. The movie was heavily criticized for the costuming looking bad when the first teaser pictures were leaked. And this is kind of unrelated, but there was also people linking it to the decline in movie lighting and how that made the clothes seem even worse. This criticism of bad quality clothing ruining modern day productions has followed a lot of new releases, and it can be so noticeable that it distracts you when you're trying to escape in the cinema. I don't know which side of the aisle you stand on Wuthering Heights using plastic dresses and not historically accurate costuming, but I definitely felt myself get pulled out of the movie because I was just flabbergasted at the excessive use of plastic in the set design and the costuming. And that feels like the opposite of what fashion wants from their film partnership. Never mind what us as viewers want from going to the cinema. Anyway, I think we end this video on doing predictions for how fashion is going to develop their film ties in the future. For one thing, I think more and more brands are going to be getting into film. Right now, it feels like luxury fashion has a big monopoly, but I think we're going to be seeing more mid-tier brands, more fast fashion brands increasing their ties, doing more collaborations, trying to get on the celebrity dressing level. I also think method dressing is going to become even more of a prerequisite and something studios invest in more, put into movie stars' contracts, try get more male movie stars joining in, since it clearly has the right kind of hype online. And finally, I think we're probably going to be seeing more costume collaborations. But yeah, I'd love to know what your predictions are for where fashion is going to go with this, whether I missed any good examples of fashion funding film, and whether you agree fashion is propping up the industry or not, because I think the jury is still out. Definitely the marketing side, I would agree, but I'm yet to see fashion match Hollywood's budget for production. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. You subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll hopefully see you in another video soon. Okay, bye everybody.